Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 11.19, Strike of Lightning, Strike of Fist. We are back.
That title makes me think we're going to hear from the martial arts man who gets older when he fights because of his tick. That's just... It's the vibe I'm getting. Strike of Lightning, Strike of Fist. That's some very, karate, kung fu name movies titles.
Well, what happened last time?
Was he as fast as lightning? Last time on Aetheral Space, we got to see the... I forgot his name, but the cowboy...
Get defeated by Skipper No Diff.
Yeah, Skipper did defeat Musashi, and Musashi was like, I will not give up here. He gave up for 5 seconds, and then 5 seconds later he was like, I will not give up.
We're so back.
We're so back. And then, I forgot his name, but the cowboy guy, killed Pax, and then forced ability activation, so he would, sacrifice his, assistant to use big magic to rain down fire on them. And then everybody was like, ooh, and then it rained fire. And then it cut off.
Meteors started coming down.
This is when Karate Man's going to be like, I'm sorry, I can't guard you a climb up.
Out of the sky.
Yeah, exactly! Just jumps out. Starts punching meteors.
Last thing we saw was that Lily and one of the Carlo Bees were launching towards the Tartarus to take the fight to them.
Yes. Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
The guy who gets older and is a martial arts dude, in my head he's just the fucking martial arts guy from One Punch Man. Do you know who I'm talking about? The fist of flowing water with the crazy hair.
I imagine he's got a bit more hippie hair.
Nice.
With a tracksuit.
Beautiful. It's somewhere in between there, I'm sure. Alright, and then we are back to the present. Begin. Object rapidly approaching. Identified. Appears to be some kind of avian organism. Engaging. Fighter down. Fighter down. Mayday. Mayday. Organism has automatic defenses. Repeat. Automatic defenses. Alexandrus Toll gritted his teeth as he looked at the monitors before him, taking in the shouts of the operators as they analyzed the threat. On the generated map, he could see the red dot that was this new enemy, surrounded by a swarm of their own white fighters, and, without fail, each fighter that fired upon it going down. His foe was formidable. He swiped to the next screen, an onboard camera from one of the fighters themselves. Toll watched as the fighter launched its missiles at the massive bird thing, and continued watching as, a second later, the fighter was struck and obliterated by what looked like a bolt of blue lightning that appeared out of nowhere. Pursue, but do not engage, Toll barked onto the channel authoritatively. We're wasting lives here! Grace, what is this? Winston Grace's voice came back over the communicator. Huh? Are you not paying attention, boy? We have a creature rapidly approaching, repelling whatever we throw at it. Analyze the threat. Grace had the audacity to sound annoyed. I'm analyzing things on the ground, dude. There are meteors coming down. I can't look at everything at once. Toll found that he was grinding his teeth once again, an unsightly habit, but one that the world seemed keen to force upon him. Forget about the ground, he snapped. If Caesar wants her officers left to their own devices, then leave them. Tell me how to deal with this goddamn bird.
Every chapter told he just gets stressed out.
His hair starts falling out and he gets a beer belly. Those last few words, bellowed, earned him a wide look of surprise from Hars. Dariah Todd Harlow seemed to have left, but Tolan... Wait, what?
Ignored it, sorry, it should be.
Okay, I see. Dariah Todd Howard seemed to have left, but Toll ignored it. He'd had enough of sitting up here quietly while idiots fought the battle below, killing each other just as much as the enemy. If the adversary was going to present itself to him, he would deal with it his own way. There was a moment of silence, and Toll barked down the communicator again. Grace! Fine, fine, Winston sighed before launching into his spiel. Well, just from looking at it, I'd say it's not a naturally occurring organism, but that's kinda obvious. It's flying around in space, after all. It shouldn't be able to produce flames like that either, so definitely some kind of engineered creature with aether enhancement and alteration on top of that. The way it's moving isn't just animal instinct as well. There's definitely human intelligence at the wheel. Hard to buy remote control with this kind of precision, so this is a person who's turned themselves into that. Toll rubbed the bridge of his nose. This doesn't help us stop them, boy. You'll notice they've been using those electricity blasts to automatically retaliate against attacks, but I've also spotted that firing firing them on targets that haven't attacked yet. I'm guessing that electricity ability works both automatically and on command then, depending on what's needed. Despite that, though, they haven't launched any attacks on the Tartarus itself. Why do you suppose that is? Is this another lady who has lightning aside from Lily?
Well, Lily's inside the bird from what we saw.
Oh, and the bird was the other lady.
Yeah.
It took Toll only a moment. They planned to board us? Exactly. I'm guessing that while things are chaotic down there, this guy plans to come up here and disrupt our chain of command. One of the people on their kill list is probably me, he said casually. But the fact they're not attacking directly means there are targets they need alive too. Hence they're going to try to board us. Hence we need to secure whoever they're going after. Toll closed his eyes as he took in a deep breath. It didn't take a genius to reach the conclusion here. The people this miscreant would be going after would be someone who'd be valuable as a hostage, and not such a threat that they needed to be eliminated outright. With another flick of his wrist, Toll switched the communication channel and roared his command. Men, secure the air! Why did they bring the air here? That was not smart.
Because if she didn't show up, they were like, why the fucking air not show up to the big battle? Fucking coward.
Why didn't the 14-year-old girl who can't use Aether show up to the
bad,
biggest thing that's happened in like 50
optics.
years? Bad optics, who cares? It's not like he even cares about his daughter. We know the Supreme doesn't care about his daughter or like what people think.
Well, it's
so
not
like
the Supreme
why
they have to like impress. It's like everyone else because one day
the
they want her to
politics.
be Supreme. Dramaturgically,
brother.
what are the optics of it?
That's how you know the supremacy's messed up, guys. They're making a 14-year-old go to war. The children yearn for the mines, not the battlefield. Ashtel Durin kept his eyes closed as he meditated upon the mat. He did not squeeze his eyes closed, nothing so forceful, but instead allowed them to peacefully rest. When meditating, it was vital for all of a person, save their mind, to be in a state of utter relaxation. Even with his eyes closed, though, he could sense what was in the room around him. This was not an Aether ability. It was simply an ability to read the shifting of the air around him, listen to the most minute of sounds, and build a map in his head around. I'm just imagining it's like Toll shouting as loud as possible. It's like, I can sense it. Someone's upset. My ability to read. Most people who developed Aether came to rely upon it. With his curse, Ashtel Durin did not have that kind of luxury. He crawled into his Aether core without actually activating his Aether, immersing himself in that feeling of yearning that brought his strength forth. It did not matter what he yearned for, so long as he desired something, so long as he had to extend his arm to the limit to grasp it, his power swelled. Yearning could be for anything, but it could not be for nothing. That was the death drive, an entirely different sensation. What did Ash yearn for today? The same thing as always. Glory. A great deed to be etched upon his grave. He had now accepted that he would die sooner rather than later. He was a born fighter and could not tear himself away from that world. The only thing that remained was to live a life of prominence before the timepiece of his life ticked to its inevitable end. This new posting, a member of the Seven Blades of the Turning of the Air, he could sense that this was the path he needed. To safeguard the future of the galaxy was a great thing indeed. I love how he's like, his internal monologue is like, oh, I am this wise person beyond my years. But he's like, isn't he like 30?
Yeah.
It's just like midlife crisis. Heroes of the Seven Blades and its predecessor organizations lived on through their legends even now. The heroes of Form, the Triumvirate, Marlin Howe. Would the name Ashtel Durin one day be spoken of in the same way? It was the only thing he could hope for. That is, if he could do the job. His eyes snapped open, and he rose silently to his feet, looking around the room. The heir herself had fallen asleep on the couch, curled up into a ball, the comedy videograph across from her blaring without an audience. She showed no signs of noticing the danger that had just appeared, but that was only natural. Even most Aether users wouldn't have noticed it. The distant shudder of the hull and a creak at an unnatural moment. That was all that Ashtel Durin needed to know the situation. The Tartarus had been breached, something smashing through the side of the massive cruiser. If it wasn't accompanied by explosions, that suggested they'd been boarded, not bombarded. In which case, the Supreme Heir would be one of their targets, without a doubt. Why did we go through the same thought process twice on two different characters? I'm hitting you in the head with a stick, Dan.
It's to show that he's
Bad.
Smart.
Bad. I understand, but bad. Wasting paper.
Catches
bad.
it.
Slap.
It's not real paper. We can waste as many as we want.
That's not what I mean. Ash stepped across the carpet, his footsteps still silent, and gently shook the air awake. She blearily opened her eyes, untied hair falling over her eyes, a low groan trickling
Hold
from
on,
her
it was
throat.
barely a paragraph. That was 2 sentences. Come on, leave me alone.
That was all... Okay. Let me think. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 sentences. You know what? Okay. That's fair. I think I thought it was longer because there was, like, a mention earlier, maybe? I'll give it to you. You can have it. Ash stepped across the carpet, his footsteps still silent, and gently shook the air awake. She blearily opened her eyes, untied hair falling over her eyes, a low groan trickling from her throat. With a yawn, she swept some of her hair back with a hand. "What?" she mumbled, distantly annoyed. Ash did not mince his words. "The Tartarus is under attack. We have been boarded. There will be people coming to kidnap or kill you." That woke up the girl more efficiently than any cup of coffee ever could. Her eyes widening, there it is. She fumbled herself up into a sitting position, her bedhead sticking out crazily in every direction. "What?" she cried. "The Tartarus is under attack. We have been boarded. There will be people coming to kidnap or kill you," Ash clarified. Akalama threw herself off the couch, hauling up the greatsword that had been resting against it. The weapon was far too big for her, and far too heavy, but she insistently dragged it along the floor anyway. "Well, what do we do?" she asked. Ash put a hand to his chin and considered the quandary. The room they were staying in wasn't the one they'd registered with the ship's steward, so anyone tracking them based on the ship's manifest shouldn't be able to find them. But for some reason, Ash found himself uneasy. He had learned long ago that it was a good idea to listen to yourself in such situations. "We'll go to the bridge," he decided, "where the Ascendant General and the other command staff will be. That's the best course of action." "Okay," Aklama nodded breathlessly, turning on her heel to run for the door as fast as her weapon would allow when the lights went out. When Lily Albrisher had first seen the starship back on Hexkay, she'd thought it was some kind of great wonder. A lost treasure, a legendary vessel, that kind of thing. Certainly unique, at least. But ever since emerging into the galaxy at large, she'd come to discover that ships like this were a dime a dozen. Lily had smashed right through the wall of the hallway with one fist, grasped hold of the cables behind it, and taken communion. The power that had been coursing through the ship was instead redirected into her body, greedily absorbing nearly all the electricity the vessel produced. She left just enough energy for gravity and life support, but only because removing those too would make her own mission inconvenient as well. I would just remove that too, I think. Because removing those would make her own mission inconvenient as well. Yeah.
Okay.
As she drank, the bright lights around them flicked off, plunging them into darkness, the only illumination being the lightning racing around her form. Finally, satisfied that she'd crippled the Tartarus, Lily released the cable and let it flop uselessly to the ground. "You good?" she called. What's my phrase to get into Scottish? "Have another pint." No, I can't say that.
You just did.
"You good?" she called out to Vex over her shoulder. "Sure am. Just flew through space, but I'm fine. Just great. Just fought off like 50 fighters, but all good." Vex sounded sarcastic, but she was entirely genuine. Lily had come to learn that long ago. I love how anytime I think of Scottish people, it just goes straight to drinking. That can't be good, right? You know what it is? I think it's because the Scottish accent is associated with dwarves, and dwarves are always drinking.
Sure. Whatever you say.
Okay. Come on. You know I'm a good boy. The other woman had reverted to her 10% form, retaining only the crimson wings of Suzaku over her shoulders, but she left a thick cover of red feathers embedded in the hole they'd made in the hole. Oh, I like that.
A hole in the hole. A hole in the hole.
Were you chuckling to yourself when you wrote that? That's pretty good. I like it.
I'm always deadly serious when I'm writing Aetheral Space.
I would have been.
I have a grim expression on my face, like Batman.
I would have chuckled and been like, "I'm so fucking
a tiny horseman.
Clever."
Funny.
You should hole embedded in enter this. Okay, sorry, I got confused. I got mashed. Those feathers were stronger than any shield and absolutely airtight. Melded into the metal as they would serve just as well as the hole itself had. At the very least, nobody was going to get sucked out into the vacuum of space. "You remember the info?" Lily asked. "You've got the air." That same deadpan expression on her face, Vex tapped her temple. "Memorized. Are you going to be fine on your own, though? Question mark?
Yeah, it's intentional. She talks like really monotone.
But that... Alright, you know what? Fair. Are you going to be on your own, though? There's going to be, like, a lot of them, right? Lily grinned. I'll be fine. I'll be just fine. The more the merrier. It's not much of a distraction if it isn't loud, yeah? She'd already seen it during the absorption, the destination she'd need to make her way to, where the electricity was concentrated and arranged in that telltale way. A briefing room with all sorts of monitors and communications equipment. That was where the person directing operations on the ground would be. That was her target. That was her target, sorry. Why don't you take over for a sec?
Winston Grace, sliding his fingers over the holographic table to inspect different parts of the battlefield, suddenly paused. His sister Beatrice, watching over him from behind with crossed arms, frowned. "What is it?" she asked. She knew her brother well enough to know that this was not a face meant for good news. He didn't answer straight away. Winston just clicked his tongue, took the stylus in his hand, and scratched his hair with it as he looked down at the hologram. The meteor storm had devastated the surface of Elysian Fields, great infernos raging through around the forests, even if the pyramid itself was still hanging in there. When the lights had gone out, the technicians had hooked the briefing room up to an emergency generator. The lights were dim and the models of the holograms low quality, but that didn't seem to be the cause of Winston's trepidation. "I might die in the next couple of minutes," he finally said, sighing. The declaration caused quite a stir. They weren't alone in the briefing room, after all. Far from it, with logistical and communication staff gathered to operate equipment and pass along information.
I actually like it better without the after all.
Okay.
I think you should go for no after all. Just keep it, yeah. They weren't alone in the briefing room, far from it. That's much better. It has a better flow to it.
Half a dozen pale faces turned towards Winston in alarm, but he paid them no mind. He just continued to play with his holographic board. Beatrice, for her part, wasted no time. With practiced grace, she unclipped 2 knives from her belt and gripped them backwards in her hands, already prepared to gouge at flesh and saw at bone. In the back of her mind, she focused on the time Winston had broken her script when they were kids, and dark blue Aether flirred in response to her core of annoyance. "What are we looking at?" she asked, all business, ignoring the alarmed looks from those around her. "How many enemies?" Just one." Winston held up a single finger, as if she'd never heard of numbers before. "The person using the automatic attacks is different from the person who turned into the bird. You noticed, right? One used lightning and the other used fire. I don't know why, but Aether users tend to stick to a specific aesthetic." "So which one's coming?" Beatrice asked. As she spoke, she dropped to one knee, inspecting the equipment she'd brought along. Smoke bombs, taser discs, syringes of lethal poison, everything seemed to be in good enough condition. Her ability, Pariah, seemed to be in working order as well. "No way of knowing," Winston said casually. "It's one of the two anyway. Whichever one isn't coming to kill me will be going after the heir." "Right, okay," Beatrice nodded, rising to her feet. Her gaze turned to the rest of the staff. "If you guys don't want to die, I'd suggest you evacuate." "Huh?" Winston blinked, and a second later remembered that they were not alone. "Oh yeah, you guys run for it, however." They didn't need to be told twice. The gathered personnel rushed out the room as quickly as their legs would take them, leaving just Winston and Beatrice in the dimly lit room. Beatrice, tossing her knives up and down in her hands, took up a position in front of the briefing table, her eyes fixed on the entrance.
I would remove, of the room, like the guy personnel rushed out as quickly as their legs would take them, leaving just Winston and Beatrice in the dimly lit room.
Okay, I like that.
That's good.
When they were young, Winston had taken to solving murders, and Beatrice had taken to perfecting them. This was her arena. She'd have a killing ready and waiting for whoever was coming. Kill ready and waiting for whoever's coming, that's better.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, not like as like a grammar or spelling standpoint, is there a reason you decided to swap out murder for kill?
I like the vibe better.
She'd have a kill ready. Okay, I can appreciate that. I think either works, so I'm cool either way with it.
Well, yeah, can I popcorn to you for the last couple of pages?
Sure. This part of the Tartarus was usually occupied by diplomats and other temporary visitors, more like a hotel than something you'd expect to see on a military starship. Plush red carpet lay underfoot, softening their footsteps as they ran. The wooden upholstery and zigzag wallpaper was almost enough to make you forget you were in space at all. During its time above Elysian Fields, the Tartarus had used these quarters to house the many, many, many special officers who had responded to the Supreme summons. On one hand, that had made it easy for Master Musashi to hide the Supreme Heir among so many new faces and names. On the other hand, now that most of those same special officers were either on the planet below or waiting in the pod bays, this part of the Tartarus was distressingly empty. Ash put a hand on the Supreme Heir's shoulder as they transitioned from the faux comfortable aesthetic of the private quarters to the cold hallways of the Tartarus proper. Red carpet and tacky wallpaper were both replaced by sleek white material that made their footsteps click. The wooden upholstery was gone, and the only comfort were the small portholes that looked out into the void of space. The darkness was such that they could only see by a flashlight, but as the shadows danced across the heir's face, Ash could see that she was terrified. He heard stories, but it was still a surprise. To think the Supreme Heir was still such an unpolished stone. After some looking around, Ash found what he had been looking for, a metal cabinet built into the wall for situations such as this. The door was jammed and took some persuasion, but Ash got it open quickly, revealing the payload within. Folded-up disposable bicycles hung up in rows. A ship like the Tartarus was huge. Moving through it wasn't as simple as walking. A tram ran down the middle of the ship to transport workers to different sectors, and elevators handled vertical travel. But in a situation like this, methods like that weren't reliable. No, without power, these bicycles were the most efficient means of getting around. If nothing else, he was sure this girl was proficient enough to ride a bike. He was just about to turn around to offer the heir a bicycle of her own when he sensed it. She can't ride a bike after all. No.
This girl,
shifted.
You will never be supreme.
Helpless. That shift in the air. Back in my day, kids used to ride bikes.
30 years
That
ago.
shift in the that shift in the air, that tiny breath, that concealed footstep. In an instant, Ash moves into action, pushing the air behind him with mechanical efficiency and assuming a combat stance. One palm held out, ready to receive and reject the world. Click, click, click. As if sensing that it was pointless, the footsteps had ceased concealing themselves. Ash waited, body in a state of relaxed readiness, eyes fixed on the other end of the hallway, at the corner that would present his adversary. He had wished for glory as a member of the Seven Blades. This was his chance to achieve that. "What's going on?" the heir said, voice hushed and fearful. Ash ignored it. The figure strode around the corner, two red wings feathered and fiery. Long blue hair with red tips, black antlers twisted and spiked like the thorns of a rose. More feathers floating freely through the air, hovering around the woman as she revealed herself. Ash took in all the information presented to him. It was unnatural that she'd found them so quickly. An Aether ping wouldn't have done her any good against a pinpoint user and a normal human, so she must have used another method. Most likely those floating feathers held some kind of scouting ability. "I offer you a chance to leave with your life," he said calmly. "Persist, and you will die." He did not shift his stance at all as he spoke. The only thing that moved was his mouth, as if he was a statue aspiring to life. He could feel the air trembling behind him. "Perhaps this will be good for her," he thought to himself. "She will see how she is expected to deal with threats." "Oh, wow," the girl said, her voice dull. "You seem like a strong guy. I was hoping I wouldn't have to fight a strong guy. I thought maybe it could be an easy thing. Oh, this sucks. This is the worst." Ash narrowed his eyes. "I offer you a chance to leave with your life," he clarified. "Persist, and you will die." I do like Ash's little gag of he clarified by repeating himself the same way. That's a good gag. I like that. Like as if he's being more clear this time. He's just saying it slower. For a moment there was silence, and he could see the gears turning behind the woman's face. Then, however, her wings just shrugged behind her, and the slightest unhappy smile spread across her lips. "Guess I'll just die, then." Without another word, the woman charged. Nice. I liked it. It was good. I really like Ash's speaking gag. We definitely get a lot of Ash's backstory really fast, but I know there are a ton of characters in Arc 11, and there's a lot of screen time to go around, so I can understand compartmentalizing it, so I'm not going to dock you for that. I thought it was fun. I think it's kind of neat that we're going to see... I would say of the side characters that were just introduced this arc, he's probably among the most interesting to me. Maybe because we've heard the most about him, but also he's just got a really unique tick. And I really like when you come out with a super unique skirrent or tick that makes the character stand out in my mind. It's just fun. I will say, I can't tell if it's part of the like he kind of acts like an old man. Like I almost wish he acted more like a 30-year-old, but he is a martial arts expert, so maybe he's got like that sort of Zen thing going on.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, but overall, I like this chapter. It's set up, and I like that we got a little bit of dialogue with Toll as well as the Graces. I almost like expected Toll to be like, "Guess I'll deal with this myself," and jump out, but I guess he's not that guy.
Well, he's also like one of your friends of the ship.
That too, but I like this a lot. I really did, and I give this chapter a 2 thumbs up.
Nice.
So, for your fun fact, I don't know if you already answered this. Maybe you did and I forgot. But I was curious, why didn't the Supremacy people all like land around the planet or like on the other side of the planet from their little base and then just like stack up their whole army before moving in?
Part of that is because the Supreme is not approaching this in like a strategically sound way. He wants like a big fun battle.
Okay. Wow, people are willing to die for that? Or I guess, to be fair, the special officers are probably cocky, I imagine.
Yeah.
Did the strategy of like letting them trickle in work at all? Like, did that help at all with repelling? Because it kind of seems like they've been getting slaughtered at Regiment Red.
Well, it's slowing it down, and perhaps Skipper has plans in mind that rely on such a thing.
Skipper's like, don't worry. Wait till you meet my heartbeat sweeper. My heartbeat swiffer.
Good luck, guys.
Heartbeat Roomba, clean up the trash.
And also maybe things will turn around when they're fucking Tartarus, if they can do something there.
That's true. I am curious how much leverage the heir will end up being, because I almost wonder if the Supreme will be like, well, she wasn't strong enough to not get kidnapped, so whatever. But like the brass will be like, no, she's an important police. I'm sorry, please continue with your Skipper impression.
I have an heir?
I have an heir. Skipper's like,
I like how the Supreme voice is like a slightly different Skipper voice.
Yeah, it's like more Surfer Bro Skipper. It's like, oh, dude, I'm so excited, and Skipper's like, I know, right?
You would not say that.
In another life, they could be at the beach together. If the Supreme, because like you almost, I think maybe this is like unique to like people who spend too much time watching anime and manga, but you see the Supreme's type of personality a lot in those as a protagonist, so you almost are like, you're like, oh, he's just having fun, but then you remember, oh, his version of having fun was like destroying tribes and civilizations of like innocent people and taking their planets, or like cracking them in half. Like, it's not just like Goku's I want to fight a stronger opponent.
When you kick a guy to him out and the guy dies.
He just decided he got bored of that after a while.
Just sat around, literally.
Yeah, for real.
I do enjoy writing the Supreme, though. He's a fun character.
He really is. I think the way you wrote him made him so much better, because I think we were all building up in our heads until his reveal. Like this looming figure of like, oh, like a fucking Fire Lord Ozai type. Like, I'll show you true power. And it's just like, oh boy, I can't wait to skirmish. And then he lands down, he's like, I'm gonna take a little pre-battle nap. It's just like, all he needs is a fun little drink, and he's such a girly. We love him. But, yeah, otherwise, any other fun facts or things you want to talk about with Aether? I know you are working on a backlog.
I am working on a backlog. The Patreon is confirmed coming soon, and that's going to have some advanced chapters, maybe some other goodies, depending on what I can think of.
Hell yes. Sounds
maybe
fun.
I'll finally do those fucking like character sheets I talked about ages ago.
What about the trailer?
The trailer is not going to be Patreon exclusive. It would defeat the purpose.
I
imagine
like to see
that the trailer being exclusive. You have to subscribe to Patreon to see the trailer.
Do I have to pay for the Patreon? Can you give me like a free pass?
Well, I need you to get the early ones for the sake of the video, so you're good already.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.